Okay, it's a me. Welcome back to my journey from the bottom to the top. That's the idea anyway. Like basically, I'm in a pretty shitty place right now in life. I'm definitely at the bottom of those, the ups and downs in life, and probably the worst one I've ever had. But that's detailed in all my other videos. I'm here, I turned on the camera to try and form some sort of accountability and sort of just to freaking connect and remember that I exist. I don't know, it's what you do, right? The first thing you do is try to reach out. So it's been working though, there's been some good things going on with me. But what's not so good is I still haven't found a job. I am looking. Anyone got any leads or anything, or jobs, or even I could, the weird thing about my history is I could be a marketing director in a boardroom somewhere, or I could be pushing trolleys at Tesco's. And truthfully, at this point in my life, I don't really care. Actually, the trolley job sounds better because you get sunshine and exercise. And you get paid for it. I am in the UK at the moment, if you haven't been following. And if you want to donate, while I'm trying to pay my rent and all that other crap, because this is definitely the worst I've ever been. There is Ko-Fi, and there are extra videos on Ko-Fi. And the last person who donated was Artifice. I might be saying that wrong, bro, but thank you for your donation and for talking about the fact that some of my, things that I talk about in the past and quite fun to recollect. End of Street Fighter 4 era, beginning of Street Fighter 5, all that stuff. And yeah, you will see some videos on here, some extra videos. Occasionally I drop them in, and I probably will drop some more. And I'd like to make a video about a psychedelic experience I had, which completely changed my life. I don't know if that'll go on my main channel or go in here or what. And another one I'd like to do is, I'd actually like to do a video on infiltration. I don't know exactly, I've been out of the scene for a while, so I don't know whether that situation was ever resolved properly. But given that it doesn't really matter if I get cancelled these days, I'd quite like to try and resolve it. Which is like a big goal, but then, you know what is life without big goals? I wouldn't have done this stuff, that's for sure. Anyway, let's get into it. I want to get down to the video. So some of my favorite interviews, the one that always comes to mind, there are a lot, by the way. There's Ryan Hart is a great one. This one, which I did with Infiltration, Takedo and Sonic Fox, was a great one. And there's loads and loads of great ones for various different reasons, and wonderful characters in the FGC. And I had the time of my life, I'm not going to lie. Takedo, of course. But one of the ones that was interesting was this one here. So around about this time, so behind the scenes around about this time, there was, what the fuck, E-League, I think it was? Yeah, so around about this time there was E-League, right? And E-League was interesting. It was the first time the Capcom were sort of taking control more. So they were in control of the invitations. They were in control of who the staff would be. They were in control of it all, right? And then there's a price, there's money to be made, but not just money. If you aren't well known as a fighting game player, you will quickly become well known as a fighting game player. And at that time, it felt like the beginning of something that was going to be much bigger. But that's not really how it went, I don't think. That's my perspective. But not E-League itself, but I mean like what followed. Like E-League felt like the beginning of something bigger. And I'm not sure we immediately got there. I say we, like I don't really feel like I'm part of the scene anymore. But it's when players started to shut down because they realized that if they said bad things, they probably weren't going to get invited to things like that. So there was more control, and you know, even I used to get shit. Like I had the cat cops on me, like after the Bonchan interview. We'll talk about that when we get to the Bonchan interview, but I used to get shit from them. Like they'd come up and warn me. And I was like, well, you don't pay me, so like I can sort of do what I want. But you know, the smart people who are looking at it purely as a job did the smart thing, which was, you know, don't necessarily speak out too much if you've got issues with the game or what have you, or because everybody knows the launch of Street Fighter V, even Capcom made an apology video that the launch was not up to scratch, right? I'm not saying that Street Fighter V didn't end up as a great game. You know, as far as Street Fighters go, I played a lot of Street Fighter V. But anyway, this isn't really about me at the moment. It's about some of the things that went on behind the scenes and some of the things I'm proud of, I suppose. And one interview in particular that I'm very proud of is NUCKLEDU at... this was March 2017, final round 20, maybe? XX, must be 20, right? Am I losing my mind? I always ask that question. I don't trust myself enough. But NUCKLEDU was... so I think I had, and I'm not sure, but I think I had basically 3 interviews with NUCKLEDU. The first one was in my early days, and he was very young, and you know, it was probably partly my fault, probably partly his fault, probably partly just where we both were at in terms of what we were trying to achieve. And you know, I had an interview with him, which was one of the there's very few interviews that I just throw away or don't use. But I didn't use the NUCKLEDU one because it lasted about a minute, and he seemed maybe a bit shy. Didn't really elaborate on questions. It was just yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. But I also had a lot to learn about conducting interviews as well. The second interview was much better, where he started to open up, and I thought, oh, this is not open up, but he started to talk more, and it was cool. And then this interview happened, right? And there was a number of things going on that day. So NUCKLEDU basically said it was a busy day. For whatever reason, there was a lot of media there. Like, I mean, like legit media, not me, like legit media, right? And they all wanted interviews with NUCKLEDU at the time because he was the man, right? I think he just won Capcom Cup or something. Basically, won a bunch of money. And I don't know why I'm saying I think, I know. He won Capcom Cup and he won money. And I remember trying to track him down, and he said, listen, I am not doing any interviews today, but I'm going to do an interview with you. I think I remember the reasons being that maybe he said, oh, because you're grassroots, which was a nice way of being able to say no to everybody else, I think. Might also have been because we'd had a few interviews in the past, he knew what to expect, maybe that there was some trust there. Don't know what was going through his head. It's hard to tell with these players. They're very busy and they're very focused on what they have to do. So I knew we didn't have a lot of time. So actually, when I look back on this interview, I sort of can see all of my mistakes, like where I wish I'd maybe expanded in places. But I can also see there's a protective element of me, which is like wanting him to open up a bit, but not too much. I don't want to take him to an emotional place when he's focused on a fighting game tournament. I also had the limitations of my camera, which I was always keeping an eye on, which would run out after 10 minutes. It would stop recording. So sometimes you would see me rushed, but you wouldn't know why. And it was because I was looking at the camera and it was like about to cut off, because it would just cut off. DSLRs cut off after about 10 minutes. So they used to anyway. There used to be a law about it, DSLRs and video cameras. But yeah, he was kind of in a rush. And I honestly don't remember the first half of this interview, and I haven't really watched it back. I watched a little bit back of the second half, but it will always stay with me. I'll remember it well. And that is that he started to open up about his life. I had asked him, I think, had the money changed his life? I had broached that subject, not knowing how he would react. And I had kind of saved it to the end because, you know, one of the things you do is you sort of save the questions at the end that may or may not make someone want to disengage with you or engage with you, but like safe questions at the beginning, the more difficult questions at the end. So it got to that subject, and then he just like opened up, and it was like, I don't know, man, I just felt a certain way. Like I felt a certain emotion running through me, because his story of going from poverty to having money, and the way he had grown up and his family, and man, it was just, yeah, it was just crazy. And Ryan Hart's is like that too. But we'll get onto that. But yeah, NUCKLEDU. And then he went on to talk about some pretty rough things, like losing friendships, like money causing problems, you know, like people coming out of the woodwork because they want a piece of the money, and pretending to be his friend and not having been there in the past, and friendships, losing friendships and stuff, and basically him having to grow up fast. And it was amazing that he opened up, because that's what you want when you're interviewing someone. You want to try and get to the real stuff, the authentic stuff. But it was also heartbreaking as well. I mean, you know, NUCKLEDU, everybody knows in the FGC knows that NUCKLEDU has also had his problems, or at that time, I don't know in the last 5 years, but you know, he has his ups and downs, and certainly some mental health issues, which luckily we get to talk about these days, you know. And I really wanted to, I think I did try to give him some advice at the time, but I don't think any of it sunk in, and I'm not sure, you know, I'm always, every year I'm growing in terms of like my idea or perception of what mental health is. But yeah, anyway, the interview, I thought in the end turned out great. You really, and I just like, when I finished it, I just didn't feel like I ever needed to interview him again. Yeah, that's just how it felt. So anyway, hopefully this has been a interesting video for you. I don't know. Like I said, I may put some extra videos on Ko-Fi, as I have been doing in the past. When I do that, I'll probably let you know in the comments. As for accountability, I've been wobbling a bit this weekend, which I knew was going to happen at some point, but I've had time to think about it, and I've talked about procrastination in another video, and I've really got to move up and out of some of this crap and start, without sounding too spiritual, but start working at working at a higher frequency. Vibrating. Well, hopefully you know what I mean. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Have a great Sunday.